All right, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to another great episode on your favorite political talk show, The Truth, with Ben Jokes. China sentences former agricultural minister to death over corruption. And Patrick here says in Nigeria, he would have been on the list of awardees for national honors. His religious sect would uplift him as blessed by God. His tribal men would protect with whatever, and lastly, the anti-graft agencies that are privy to all his atrocities would look the other way. That is the situation of Nigeria. Adebanji says, until we reach this level, there will never be a true fear factor when it comes to looting Nigeria's wealth. People steal with ease because they are convinced that nothing will ever happen to them in the end. And that is exactly true. So a country like China that has sentenced a minister to death over corruption is the kind of country that Shetima is asking to share the same space with, saying that he wants to be in the United Nations Security Council with countries that have zero tolerance for corruption. When you and your boss will take loans and share amongst yourselves. This is the level that Nigeria must come to. But before we come to this level of even executing people for stealing money, there has to be a total revolution, because right now we don't even have a court to even decide who is guilty and who is not. That is how far this country has degenerated. But if Nigerians say no, that this country has to change, then it is within the power of the people to change it. But if we continue to accept everything that is thrown at us by this political class, then we must be ready to sink with the country. Now, let us look at the top stories. First is that one coming from the World Bank. And this story is completely against all that this regime has been saying in the last 3 weeks about the present state of Nigeria's economy. And next is that terrible update coming out of Kwara State and by extension, Southwest Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, there is fire on the mountain. Before I show you details of these top stories and how Nigerians reacted, let me quickly show you this video.
Question as to how Dangote sees this situation. He sees this as a terror attack on the nation's economy, as a sabotage. And I remember the military head of state and the military dictator, General Sani Abacha, in his speech, this was when MK Abiola declared himself the president and the winner of that election. It was around the same time that Pengasan and Nupeng, I mean, it's just so sharp in my memory how the military dictator at the time, in his military uniform, on the national television, and the NTA at the time, declared Nupeng and Pengasan's action as illegal, disbanded the association's leadership, and says that they cannot do what they did. Similar to what we are having. Are you worried that such a treatment can be melted on the association if it's seen as a sabotage on the economy, an economy that is trying to get back on stream after some kind of disruptions and economic problems that we have experienced in the past few months?
Show the position, the people that fought that struggle then, they were given national award later on, 30 years later. The people that led that struggle then, they were not just given national awards, some were given posthumous award. Then the struggle that was led as a then, the agitation as a then, MK Abiola was pronounced as a Nigeria president that was never sworn in. So that has even vindicated Pengasan. That has even clearly shown that Pengasan, we are intellectuals. We are not rascals. We are knowledgeable people. We are people that understand how.
So you are not worried about a government clampdown in the case of a possible economic sabotage being tagged or seen into all of this?
The person that is sabotaging Nigeria economy is Aliko Dangote. Aliko Dangote is whom he is today because of Nigeria. Nigeria gave him license to import flour, single license. Nigeria gave him single license to import sugar, single license to import salt. The refinery that Dangote built is our money. With the Nigeria government subsidized it first for him to build that refinery, and some of the funds that they gave to him found itself in Uganda. Find itself, he was using Nigeria money to be building what he was building in another part of the world. So the person sabotaging Nigeria economy is Aliko Dangote
Why
and his
does
co-travelers.
it seem like the fearsome people around Aliko Dangote is as to the effect of some of the things you have said tonight, that Pengassan and Nupeng and the likes are being sponsored and used by the enemies of Dangote to sabotage the refinery and make the biggest investor and the biggest employer in the private sector in Nigeria look bad. Whereas the man says is into an economic disruption for good, economic reforms for good of the nation.
You heard that. That was the president of Nigerian Trade Union Congress, TUC, who is also the president of Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Pengassan, Mr. Festus Osifo speaking there. And the war between Pengassan and Aliko Dangote continues. Yesterday, I told you that this battle is all about personal interest. Dangote sacks 800 staff of his refinery who joined the trade union Pengassan, and now Pengassan have shut down supply to Dangote refinery, even shutting down the refinery in Lagos. Now most Nigerians can't even place their hands on the real issues here. They are just hearing Pengassan, Dangote. That tells you that the oil sector is shrouded in secrecy. People don't really know how it operates. Now, who do you side with? Is it the people in the petroleum sector who have connived with government to deny us, of functional refineries for many years? Or a Dangote who has also connived with government to sell petrol at around 850 naira per liter in an oil-producing country? None of these two parties, in my opinion, has been merciful to Nigerians. And a war between them should only provoke Nigerians to see and detest what their country has become. For almost a week since this war began, Tinubu has not uttered a word. Can you just imagine that? The petroleum sector is on fire. Petrol prices have worsened across the nation. Scarcity soon to be. As a matter of fact, I believe scarcity has started already. And we haven't heard a word from the man sitting in Aso Rock. And I can tell you categorically that he doesn't know how to approach this issue because his hands are not clean. He is a petrol importer. And this issue is tied with a local refinery. And local refineries are anti-importation of petrol. So he does not know how to mediate in this issue without giving himself out expressly. This is not leadership. We need a change of government. We need somebody whose hands are clean so that the secrecy of the oil sector will be unraveled. And I promise you, when we unravel the secret nature of the oil sector, we might even begin to buy petrol at 100 naira per liter without even subsidizing. Now, let us look at the top stories. First is that one coming out of World Bank, one that contradicts all that the Tinubu administration has been saying about the economy in the last 3 weeks. And next is that terrible update coming out of Kwara State and by extension, Southwest Nigeria. And that update got me singing, "There is fire on the mountain." Let's start by taking that update from the World Bank. Look at how the papers reported it. Breaking news: the World Bank is set to approve 2 loans totaling $750 million for Nigeria on Tuesday, September 30, 2025. The World Bank is set to approve 2 major loans totaling $750 million for Nigeria on Tuesday, September 30, 2025, in a development that underscores the international lenders' continuing financial and policy support for Africa's largest economy. According to documents published on the World Bank's official website, the funding will be directed towards strengthening health security system and expanding climate resilient digital infrastructure in the country. The funding package consists of 2 components: $500 million earmarked for the Building Resilient Digital Infrastructure for Growth in Nigeria project, and $250 million under the Health Security Program in Western and Central Africa Nigeria Phase 2. Together, the initiative aimed to address Nigeria's persistent challenges in the healthcare delivery and technological infrastructure, while also enhancing the country's resilience against climate change impacts and future public health crises. And Hassan Muhammad here says the government said the economy is getting better. They removed fuel subsidy to stop borrowing, but at the moment they borrowed even more after the fuel subsidy removal. I just see the government as a form of deceit. And Ripple Africa says, what is different from what the previous president did in his 8 years tenure in terms of borrowing? PMB didn't remove fuel subsidy but took loan. But BAT removed subsidy and he's taking loan. Loan na water. I keep saying it. There is no proof whatsoever that Tinubu is not worse than Buhari. In my opinion, he is far worse. And Ovoke here says another 750 million debt when Tinubu has announced that the government has met its IGR target in August. This government is addicted to borrowing, mortgaging Nigeria's future while citizens suffer today. Enough of this reckless looting in the name of loans. That is what it is all about. Reckless looting. The same man who came to say that they had met their internally generated revenue targets for the year, that they met it early in August, and the country does not need borrowing anymore. In less than 4 weeks since he said that, we have taken 2 major loans and all will be embezzled. Nigerians, wake up. And just as Nigerians were yet reacting to this, that terrible update from Kwara State and by extension southwest Nigeria began making the rounds. Look at how the papers reported it. 12 vigilantes, community leader killed in terrorist attack on Kwara community. Police confirm. The Kwara State Police Command has confirmed that 12 vigilante members, including the Baale of Ogbayo, were killed during an armed attack in Okeode, Ifelodun local government area on Sunday morning. In a statement on Sunday, the command said the incident occurred at about 7 a.m. when gunmen invaded the Ogbayo area of Okeode and opened fire indiscriminately. At about 7 a.m. today, armed men invaded the Ogbayo area of Okeode, shooting sporadically. A combined team of police operatives and members of the National Forest Security Service responded swiftly to the scene, where they discovered 12 lifeless bodies of vigilante members, including the Baale of Ogbayo. The statement read. It added that the victims sustained multiple gunshot wounds, while 4 others who were injured were taken to the hospital for treatment. Commissioner of Police CP Adekimi Ojo expressed condolence to the bereaved families. The Commissioner of Police CP Adekimi Ojo deeply commiserates with the families of the victims, praying for the repose of their souls. He assures the people of Kwara State of the unwavering commitment of the police command to their safety and security. The statement added, the command said further updates will be communicated in due course. Reporters learned that the vigilantes, who have long served as the first line of defense for rural communities in the absence of consistent military presence, were reportedly overpowered by the attackers. And look at how Nigerians reacted. Let's take some of the tweet reactions. Ogbeni Abdrazak Sahid here says, this is getting out of hand. What is the Kwara State governor doing to end this menace of insecurity we experience today in Kwara? Real AA Rahman, that is the governor. Don't neglect those who elected you as their governor. You must be accountable for their safety. And Ariel here says, 12 vigilantes and a community leader butchered in cold blood. How many more lives must be wasted before action is taken? Real AA Rahman, that is the governor. Insecurity has consumed Kwara under your watch. Enough of the silence. Restore peace now. Things have become so terrible in Kwara State that the former Senate president and former governor of Kwara State, Bukola Saraki, who is usually the quiet type, began blasting the state government. Bukola Saraki blasts Kwara State government over rising insecurity because the issue is so bad. These people just turn up to places in Kwara State and they begin shooting into the air. They abduct as many people as they want, and this is happening daily. And the worst is that this thing began in February in Kwara State. And the level it is now is close to places like Benue State that have been suffering this thing for almost 8 to 9 years before it got to that terrible level. Kwara's own started in February here, and it is already close to that level. Very soon we will begin to have IDPs in Kwara State. And like I said, it is by extension the situation of southwest Nigeria, because this place that I just read to you, Ifelodun local government area, is just minutes away from southwest states. They share direct boundaries. So if Kwara State is falling to terrorists like this, falling to terrorism, that is tantamount to southwest Nigeria falling to terrorism. So when we say these things, it looks as if we are just talking. But this is the aim of these people. They are trying to take over these regions and they are not going to stop. We have seen what the Fulanis did in Kwara State itself, that used to be a complete Yoruba state. Today, we have the Fulanis controlling the major resources of the state. We saw how the Fulanis infiltrated northern Nigeria and silenced the Hausas and other ethnic groups that are the real owners of the land. This is exactly what they are trying to do in southwest Nigeria and every other region that they are aiming at. They are essentially aiming at the entire country. And it might take them years, but a time will come when the people, the real indigenes of the place, will be subdued, and it will only be stories they'll be telling them that many years ago this land actually belonged to your forefathers. And it is the neglect of today that will lead to such outcomes in the future. And how do we fight this as a people? Anybody who is listening to this and who is not happy with the way things are going, the only way you can change this narrative is to get the APC out of power, because the APC are the chief sponsors of these people. That is why it looks as if they are so powerful, because they have government backing. If we remove the APC out of power and we bring in a people-oriented leader, I am telling you, in less than 12 months, Nigeria will see the back of insecurity and insurgency in this country. But until then, make I still enter town, make I go get some ogbonge political news we una go like. Why? Because now because of una I dey here. So don't go away. Don't go away.